Good morning and welcome to the Monadist Unitarian Universalist congregation on another bright and sunny Sunday morning. Let's appreciate this one. Announcements, of course, please read the announcements that come out on Thursday. They're sent out email, and they got the little stars and the rainbows and everything at the top, so it pops out in your inbox. So please read them. Save a lot of time. Big news. Oh, first, be sure to stay around at the end of this, after the service, because there's going to be a raffle for the Easter basket from the Pledge Committee. And I missed saying this 2 weeks ago because I wasn't here, but for you about to pledge, we salute you. Last, Jaryus, could you put up the photo from Amy's farm? We had a turnout. We had people helping, volunteering at Amy's farm down in Chino. And it's good to see us out in the community again, multi-generational. Yes. Thank you. I didn't write things down today. Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Reverend Maggie.
Good morning, everyone, and thank you, Alan. We're kind of at a focus on the pledge drive. There aren't a whole lot of other announcements besides that. But there is an excitement on the calendar. As you notice, we flipped March over. We are in a new month. So on our first Sunday of the month, we like to celebrate everyone who's having a birthday that month. So do we have any April babies here with us? Mark? Okay. Anybody else? Any online ones? We've got 10 households connected to us online. Let's see. I don't see that any of them are born in April. But so let's sing together happy birthday, and where you put the name, we'll say April babies. Okay? And we even have violin today. To open our service, we ring the bowl 3 times, once for those who came before. The Tongva and other indigenous people who were the original stewards of this land and first called it home. We also honor our ancestors and those founding members who imagined and planted this beloved community. We ring it once for those of us here and now. For our members and friends, our visitors, our staff, and our extended UU family who hold, care, and grow this spiritual home that we know as our own. And we ring it once for those who will come. For all who will come to call MVUUC their spiritual home in the days ahead. We're going to do something a little different with one of our favorite hymns on this Sunday. We're going to sing Gather the Spirit, but we're going to do the 3 different verses at different times and in different moods, okay? So for our opening song, I invite you to stand. Gather the Spirit, number 347, we'll only do verse 1. Please be seated. I invite everyone but you, Shirley. Shirley Ussery will come and light our chalice for us with our newfangled chalice lighter. Yeah, slide it up and then push the button. There. There you go. Yeah, slide that down. Great. Yeah, thank you. Our chalice lighting words for today come from Anastasia Brioche, who wrote this little piece. She called it Soul Fire. As we light this flame of hope, may our congregation become a kaleidoscope of souls and people within the presence of this flame, the flame in me, in you, in us, as an invitation to sit at the table. May we tend to our soul fire through these challenging and trying times, to open our hearts and minds and tend to all those who enter our doors. Beautiful. Now I invite you to stand again, get a little workout this morning. We're going to read our covenant together. Thus do we covenant. The words are in your order of service, but we'll also have them up there. And then remain standing as we sing Spirit of Life. We affirm that love is the greatest purpose of this congregation. The search for truth is our constant star, and service is our prayer. We pledge our hearts, minds, and hands to challenge injustice with courage, to find hope in times of fear, and to live out our Unitarian Universalist values every day as a beloved community. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all that is sacred in life. Seated. Our wisdom tale today is titled Our Principles as a House of Love, and it'll be presented to us in two voices of Letha Comstock and Robert Tidwell. Here's Spanish.
Here. Okay, thank you. Good morning, everybody. Did you know that love is really a big deal in Unitarian Universalism? I bet you did, because we just can't stop talking about it.
Yes, we are all about love this and side with that, love with that. And we say just this is what love looks like in public. We aren't the only ones to say that, though. Dr. Cornel West was.
There was once a scientist named Robert Miller who asked all kinds of people, not just Unitarian Universalists, what they thought of love and how important it was for them. It turns out that of all the groups he studied, whether religious or not, UUs ranked love as a core value more often than others.
I guess love really is a big deal for you, for us. Big deal. Another big deal in Unitarian Universalism is our principles, our promises, as the kids call them. They are a big part of our covenant with each other.
We know they are a big part. We know that they are a big deal because we have so many ways to talk about them to make sure that everyone understands them.
Like this. Here is a list in Spanish.
And we also have one in Arabic and in Thai.
We also have them in a language for children on the back of our Sunday morning services, the bulletin thingy.
And there's this one cool principle wheel that we have on the screen that was designed by Reverend Riddell, and it shows a non-linear way to think about the relationships between the different principles.
All of these ways are focused on the 7 principles. But did you know that when the Unitarians and the Universalists consolidated in 1961, there were only 6 principles?
So maybe there is a principle that's still missing.
Just like we figured out all those years ago when we decided the 7th principle was missing.
Maybe with the work of the UUA's Article 2 Study Commission and their work that is grounded in the 8th principle, we will be closer to the beloved community that we dream about, where there is no oppression of any kind, and where we can say that Black lives matter because they do.
We want to be part of building this house of love. Do you?
And that's the end of our story. So, and you guys can sing us out to class. And also, next Sunday is Easter, and we're going to have a Easter celebration on the patio for those of you that join us next week.
And now, drum roll, brrr, it's time for the treasurer. I invite Carissa up for an update on our pledge drive.
Thank you, and good morning. Okay, so as of Thursday, we'd received pledge cards from 27 pledge units, consisting of 35 members and friends, and we were at a total of $57,460 pledged. So give yourselves a round of applause for that. So, in comparison, the last information I received for our current pledge year, we had 61 pledge units, 77 members and friends, and $117,510 pledged. So we're almost halfway there. We're almost halfway to the number we got for last year. So go you. And for those of you who haven't pledged yet, you still got a couple of weeks. Get it in. Okay, immediately after the service, we will be holding the raffle for the lovely Easter basket up here that Kay Perlman created for us, for everyone who has already turned in their pledge card. Okay, so incentive, turn in your pledge cards. Committee chairs, please, please, please fill out your budget request forms and get them back to me no later than April 30th. I've had one turned back in so far, one. So if you guys want money next year, you need to turn in your budget requests. And now I will turn the microphone over to Mark Moniger to tell us why he pledges to MVUUC.
There are two words that Unitarian Universalist and NPR listeners hate to hear more than anything else. Pledge drive. Unlike NPR, we only have this once a year. Every year is more important than the previous one, but no other year that I can remember is your pledge vital to the sustainability of our congregation than this one. As a member of the Finance Committee and co-chair of this pledge drive, I see our financial numbers every month. I see our expenses and we incur. I see the rising prices of what it takes to run our beloved congregation. The costs are not going down. Utilities, fair living wages and benefits for the employees, music program and director, contractor costs and unforeseen repairs, all up to more than we budgeted. So this year we are asking you to pledge and consider raising your pledge from what you've given before. Consider the reasons why you're here, the things you like about this sacred place, why you keep coming back. I did, and that's why I'm raising my pledge 10%. And this is why. I give for 3 P's: our people, our principles, and our potential. I give for our liberal religious values, that we support social issues that mean something to me. I give for Maggie's inspirational sermons, for Taco Tuesdays, for drum circles, for yoga classes, for the men's group, for the choir, for Jeannie Coates' pagan services, for chow, cups, book, for Dia de los Muertos, for the RE and youth events, for Cat's dogs, Maggie's clarinet, Maddie's singing, and Lily's music. I give for our variety of interesting guest speakers. The fact that I can invite an atheist author, Dan Barker, to be a guest speaker and no one objects. I give that we can hear a service on social justice issues, quote Gandhi, Buddha, Abe Lincoln, Bertrand Russell one Sunday, and then hear a service on how the Beatles inspired us with their music and influenced our lives the next Sunday. And the choir singing Beatles songs. We hear music from Bach, Brahms, Beethoven, Haydn, Tchaikovsky, and even Queen. And I give for the music coming out of Lily's new piano. I give for coffee and conversation on the patio after service, that we can have adult beverages at our dinner events, smoke cigars on the patio afterwards. I give because I can recite a Saucy Shel Silverstein poem and no one is offended, and some kind of liked it. I give for our volunteers, Debbie Skirdo, Carissa and Dawn, Steve Shirley, Bob Taylor, Catherine Rowley, Julie Steinbach, for George, Maribel, Kay Perlman, Maria Wortham, Laura Mulroy, Ellen Livingston, Alan Worley, and countless others that give back to this hallowed space. I give to hear Lily play. I give for those who left us, Nick Livingston, Bob Minnick, Harry Ragland, Dick Olson, Nella, Beverly, Dolores, and many more. Their legacy and contributions live on. Yes, for these and other reasons I give. If you can relate to any of the things that I've described, and they too have meant something to you, or is the reason you're here and come back, then it's time to make your pledge. And maybe it's time to consider giving more. MVUUC has been my chosen religious home for over 23 years. It will be part of my estate when I'm gone. But for right now, I'm up here to encourage you to turn in your pledge card and to give generously and even consider increasing your donation. When we all do that, we are truly rocking MVUC with strength, support, and sustainability. Now it's time for me to leave so I can hear Lily play and get my money's worth. Thanks for listening.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mark. And we have it on video, so. Okay. Preparing an offering message during Pledge Drive offers a time for me to deeply consider all of the gifts that we bring, the many examples of the helpful ways that we offer care, prayer, and share to keep our community sustainable. It's always my intention to avoid talking about finances too often, But it's also irresponsible of me to ignore the importance of understanding how essential our pledges and offerings are to the well-being of our congregation. We hold that balance in these weeks where we gather our pledges for next year. Our pledges of financial commitment ensure that we continue to tend to the spiritual development of our community and strengthen our capacities to share our values of love, compassion, and justice with the wider community. We are discovering things about our campus that need immediate tending, things that have been there, perhaps under the surface, but they're coming forward to grab our full attention now. And as we continue to find our way forward toward a healthier future. Our mystical side reminds us that money is energy, and the ways we dedicate our finances and direct our energies says much about the integrity of our intentions. And by taking the time to gather our offering, we are embracing a ritual that says our giving is an essential part of our fiscal and spiritual well-being. If your offering today is dedicated to the pledge for the current year, or to the support of our Calapayan partner church, or one of our other ministries, please be certain to state that in the memo of your check, or ask for an envelope from the front counter there, and write on there what the intention is, if it's cash that you want specifically dedicated. And while we listen to Lily and Boriana's beautiful offertory, I invite those in the sanctuary to come forward now and leave your financial gifts to the congregation and your non-perishable gifts for the Beta Center at Inland Valley Hope Partners. It is with deep gratitude for the many gifts of this community that our offering will now be given and received. Thank you, that was so lovely. So glad you're here today, Boriana, thank you. Joys and Sorrows is an element of our weekly worship by our choice. It is a time when we share the things that bring us delight and the things that are disappointing us. It helps us to talk about them. And sometimes we need to share, Maddie, is that one for me? On the music stand there?
Would you like to use that music stand?
No, I see a Joy and Sorrow.
Oh, that was from last week.
Oh, okay.
But it still
Sorry.
applies.
Oh, it does. Oh, for Michael, yeah. We do have the yellow Joys and Concerns papers that are on the green table, or you can get one when you come through the door, and to fill out if you have a prayer request that you would like us to announce. I'll check with the Zoom people. Hi, Zoom people. We don't forget about you. We love all of you. Oh, there's Lynn and Basu, Meg. It's great. Good to see you all. But I have some other prayers, and of course, Michael Scully, as he tries to orchestrate some cancer surgery that he needs for skin cancer. But last Friday, March 24th, tornadoes in Mississippi killed 26 people and destroyed homes and businesses of many more. 22 others were killed just 2 days ago as tornadoes hit 7 states, including Arkansas near Little Rock. The season continues to unfold with stronger and stronger storms that are hitting the southeast more than the Midwest as they had in the past. On Monday, March 28th, this is a hard one. 7 lives ended in a shooting at a Nashville elementary school. At 8 p.m. Pacific time on Wednesday night of this week, 9 U.S. Army soldiers were killed in a Black Hawk helicopter crash during training in Kentucky. One 27-year-old soldier that was killed, Sergeant Isaac John Gallo, was from here, from Los Angeles. On Thursday, March 30th, former President Donald Trump was indicted by a Manhattan grand jury after an investigation into payments made during his 2016 presidential campaign to silence claims of a woman he hired for an extramarital sexual encounter. And congratulations for not clapping. Thank you for that. It is something that's really going to change so many things, and we should be holding it at this time. But on that very same day, we learned that Pope Francis, while hospitalized for a respiratory infection, was still working. He baptized a baby in the hospital nursery, and he directed the Vatican to renounce the papal decrees that make up the doctrine of discovery, declaring that the doctrine that was used to justify Europe's colonial conquests and to snuff out indigenous people's culture is not part of the Catholic faith. For all of that, I will light our candle of hope and witness from our chalice flame. And I have chosen some poetry, the words of poets that fit quite well into the times we're in. So I open our time of prayer and meditation asking you to exhale a little and get comfortable in your seat as we hear the words of Worcestershire that are blended with Amanda Gorman's poem, A Hymn for the Hurting. And it'll be followed by our gentle song for today, which will be verse 2 of Gather the Spirit. We'll sing it very slowly and prayerfully. Later that night, I held an atlas in my lap, and I ran my fingers across the whole world, and I whispered, "Where does it hurt?" It answered, "Everywhere. Everywhere, everywhere." Everything hurts. Our hearts shadowed and strange, minds made muddied and mute. We carry tragedy, terrifying and true, and yet none of it is new. We knew it as home, as horror, as heritage. Even our children cannot be children, cannot be. Everything hurts. It's a hard time to be alive, and even harder to stay that way. We're burdened to live out these days, while at the same time we're blessed to outlive them. This alarm is how we know we must be altered, that we must differ or die, that we must triumph or try. Thus, while hate cannot be terminated, it can be transformed into a love that lets us live. May we not just grieve, but give. May we not just ache, but act. May our signed right to bear arms never blind our sight from shared harm. May we choose our children over chaos. May another innocent never be lost. Each week as I choose the reading for our service, I carefully sift through many resources for one that has just the right fit, one that will leave you feeling touched and not taught. But today's reading is an important message, one that might sound a bit teachy, but let's hear it with open hearts and let it touch us. It's from our Unitarian Universalist Association Article 2 Study Commission. If you like acronyms, it's the UUAA2SC. It's about our 8th principle. The Commission's statement. Unitarian Universalism is no stranger to movements that call for racial justice both within and beyond our institutions. Over and over again, pockets of people have worked to say racism is a problem, and racism is a problem for us, and that we are committed to fighting racism and other oppressions. In 1997, the General Assembly voted to commit to intentionally becoming anti-racist, anti-oppressive, and multicultural institution. Yet, almost 25 years later, we continue to fall short of our commitments and our promises. When the Eighth Principle Project began, it addressed something vital that had been missing in our UU movement, namely that anti-racism and anti-oppression must be central to congregational life and our community building. The mammoth project of fostering conversation within congregations and other communities, and then calling on those communities to make an explicit statement in the form of the Eighth Principle, has become a true groundswell within Unitarian Universalism. The text of the Eighth Principle says that we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying toward spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse and multicultural beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. In this way, thousands of Unitarian Universalists have become part of the real fundamental work of anti-racism and anti-oppression in our communities. The process of examining and possibly revising Article 2 of the UUA bylaws is a scheduled effort of the UUA board that is demanded by the bylaws themselves. The Article 2 Study Commission, charged with making a proposal to the UUA board in January of 2023, has tremendous respect for what the Eighth Principle movement has accomplished and is accomplishing within UU communities. More than the language of the Eighth Principle itself, we are moved by the ongoing conversations about what it means to be accountable to each other and how we must, through our actions, take on the work of anti-racism and anti-oppression as an inextricable part of our UU faith. And so, though the task we've been charged with is larger than the specifics of the Eighth Principle, we understand these ideals to be at the very heart of our work and very much part of the direction that we are journeying. We understand the work we are doing to be building on the strengths of the Eighth Principle movement. Whatever flowers grow from the process of engaging UUs in this Article 2 reimagining, the seeds sown by the Eighth Principle Project will surely bloom brightly. May it be so.
I'd like to say a few words before I do this piece today with these two lovely ladies, the Popova sisters. In most Christian churches at this time of year, this is considered Holy Week with the start of Palm Sunday. And the piece that I'm going to do is really not appropriate for Palm Sunday. It's appropriate for Good Friday, which is when I usually performed it. The piece is entitled Erbarmedish. It is the alto aria late in this 3.5-hour work from the St. Matthew Passion, which I consider to be one of the greatest works of art ever composed. And it's by Johann Sebastian Bach. It talks about the sorrow that the world must experience from the loss of their Savior. Erbarmedish by Johann Sebastian Bach. And I'm sitting down because I'm not quite fully back. I can't quite stand and sing an aria like this, but I can do okay if I sit down. Oh, I want to dedicate this to Lily and the church choir because I've very rarely in my life gotten a chance to sing in a choir. I did when I was in school and my voice got too big and I sang opera, so I directed choirs instead of singing in them. But I want you to know, choir, how much I appreciate your welcoming me, and of course Jimmy, and letting us sing in the choir, because it means a lot to me. I was just saying the other day, it's the highlight of my week, truly. So, anyway.
und meine Seele.
To just let that sit for a minute. Yeah, you're right, Jimmy. Yeah. Beautiful. Over the past 7 months, beginning with the first principle at the start of our church year in September, we have reflected on our 7 Unitarian Universalist principles, 1 per month, as a frame for our worship theme. As March came to a close just 2 days ago, we closed out our 7 months and 7 principles, wrapping up with our 7th and final principle, as they are included in Article 2, the bylaws of the Unitarian Universalist Association of Congregations, of which we are a part. Today, a new month opens for us, and as we welcome the month of April, we also welcome a new worship theme where we explore the proposed but yet to be adopted 8th principle. And while this proposed principle might be familiar to some, there may be some of us here today who are hearing about it for the first time. So I'd like to invite us to read it together slowly as it's presented in your order of service as today's centering thought. And we begin, we affirm and promote journeying through spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and in our institutions. Thank you. Like the study commission, as we heard in today's readings, we too are moved by our own personal exploration into what it means to be accountable to the call to anti-racism, and how we are called to use our every action to reflect the work of anti-oppression as we live out our Unitarian Universalist faith in our personal lives and in the ways that we are known in the community. Bringing this principle to life in our personal lives and in this congregation and in the world comes with both a tough, insistent demand for change and also a nudge in our hearts that lands with a generous and a tender touch, reminding us that we must engage the process to become the loving anti-supremacy believers that we wish to see in the world, to paraphrase Mahatma Gandhi. We each carry a deep awareness and respect for our inner toleration levels for oppression and supremacy. Our awakening and our commitment to unbraid all supremacy from our lives is a process that is both tough and tender. And while both toughness and tenderness are operative simultaneously, the one that seems to prevail most often, and the one that tends to distract us from our spiritual work of self-awareness and kindness, is the anti-racism response that usually presents on the tougher side. We tend to be harder on ourselves and pretty tough on others that we live with when it comes to falling short of the 8th principle, more so than we do with any of the other 7, it seems. It seems understandable that our work toward anti-racism and anti-oppression is of the greatest urgency in our world right now and should be energized with the most aggressive force that we can muster. But in order for the shift that we long for to bring solid change that is without supremacy of any kind, we must infuse it with tender patience and loving space holding for the supremacy that is stored in deep places within our unconscious. And it might well be hiding within the fond memories that we have for our younger days. Common family phrases and terminology that we had ingrained within our culture may go deeper into the shadow and stay unexplored and left unhealed if one is shamed for using oppressive language by one's friends or colleagues. But language and phrasing that was acceptable or even considered comical by our parents or our friends in earlier times can easily leak from our past and bring profound offense unintentionally. I'm remembering the expression, I opened my mouth and my mother came out. But without rejection or shaming, we can safely and tenderly excavate our habits, looking for signs of needed change. It is the work we are called to do as we become more self-aware and continue our journey towards spiritual wholeness. It may be that we have witnessed harm that has come from an unintended offense. Maybe we made that mistake ourselves while we were trying to be careful. But being tough and tender as we correct and reflect with ourselves or with a friend that has accidentally become an unwitting offender brings easier and more permanent change. Bullying someone who is unaware of the supremacy in their language, no matter how blatant it seems to us, is still bullying. And truth without compassion is brutality. And it's easy to be brutal to those whose jokes or colloquialisms offend us or someone we care about. The work we have to do is to create the space for healing and to realize it could easily have been us. We can wonder to ourselves if our response is a form of supremacy when we think, oh my, I would never say anything that they did. Well, often many of us don't even realize the supremacy within our speech. Just recently, George and I were caught in a new awareness about the origins of the term uppity. I've used it. We might use it as a term to describe somebody who's snobby or unfriendly, but its original meaning defined blacks who didn't know their place. Gypsy, or being gypped, is a derogatory term for people with an itinerant way of life, living widely dispersed across Europe. Squaw is a term that I was taught in Catholic school meant to be an Indian woman. But its true meaning is an ethnic and sexual slur, historically used for indigenous North American women. Contemporary use of the term, especially by non-natives, is considered derogatory, misogynist, and racist. Peanut gallery defines the area of the theater where people of color sat. A paddy wagon defines the catch-all police vehicle for gathering up rowdy, drunken Irishmen. I take personal offense to that. Similarly, hooligans also defines unruly Irish. Eskimo is a slang term that the Danish use for the Inuit, just as Iroquois is a French term for the Haudenosaunee peoples. Being sold down the river does not only define betrayal, but it was used by slave masters in the North, sending their unwanted slaves down the Mississippi. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. The list is inexhaustible. And there is always more excavating to do, more learning, more unfolding, more reframing. And the best place to safely do that is in a community that is tough and tender. No shaming, and at the same time, no tolerance. as we do the work to become spiritually whole and we continue building and reframing the beloved community that we imagine and long for, let's be sure to consider the many ways that it is the balancing of both our tough and our tender responses that needs our attention. And we will continue our work together of building a house for all people, one that is diverse and multicultural, one that is free of the tolerance for racism, ableism, ageism, classism, sexism, any ism. One that is working to eliminate supremacy of any kind. But in order to do that, we must be dedicated to keeping our conversations open and our inward work a constant unfolding in a space that is safe and loving and tough and tender. And that begins with ourselves and our giving of the tenderness that we all need and that we're all looking for when we are trying our best to birth a new world, yet falling short, often because of childhood experiences that framed our own formation, and despite the ways that we know that our heads and our bones still carry the DNA of the world that we were born into and grew up in. It still speaks. The shadow work that we're called to do as we continue to clean up these old paradigms from the scary closets of our minds gives us all permission to admit that these days are really filled with too much change. And we need a place of safety to learn as we trip over our tongues and misspeak. We need a place where we're safe to admit that maybe we do prefer some of the past days that were simpler. We do well to balance the correction and the discipline that is coming at us from many sides as the tides turn so quickly. So may we all be tough and tender with ourselves and with one another. Amen, and blessed be. I invite you to stand and sing out with joy verse number 3 of Gather the Spirit. And let's read our benediction together. This is the message of our faith, to act with passion in the face of injustice, to love with courage in the midst of life's challenges, and to live with the light of our chalice flame. May it empower our hearts until we are together again. Everyone is invited to stay for our pledge team raffle drawing. Lily's going to draw the name of the person that gets the basket right after the postlude.